An article that came out on Men Post August 16th, 2017. America's Fall. It's a matter of priorities. We hear the litanies of woes from our politicians almost every day. The crumbling middle class, deteriorating inner cities, dying small towns, budget deficits, and national debt, crumbling infrastructure, and the threat posed by climate change. Our healthcare system is a disaster, and we have an entire generation that is now dying sooner from drug addiction and depression. President Trump, in his dark inauguration speech, said he looked across the land and saw American carnage. And he blamed the Mexicans and the Chinese. But sometimes the real story leaks out. During his presentation in Tower last month, longtime U.S. diplomat Tom Hansen talked about the most recent World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, which he attended as usual. Like most years, he didn't take long before the U.S. representatives renewed their complaints about trade imbalances and lost American jobs. But this time, it fell mostly on deaf and defiant ears. If there's one silver lining to President Trump, who is even more unpopular overseas than he is here at home, it's that the rest of the world is no longer willing to show the kind of difference to the US and its and that once it did. So what he's saying is, see, back in the day, people were listening and following the lead of the US, but when he went to that Switzerland conference, those countries are no longer paying attention like they did before in the past. Okay, things are shifting fast. It really is. And as you can see, he's letting this be known. The world is not at the beck and call of the US anymore. And that means that some of the world's business leaders, like Jack Ma, the founder of the Chinese online retail giant Alibaba, are now willing to speak some hard truths about the real reason that America is crumbling. During an interview at Davos, Ma countered the American centric view so often heard in Washington and parroted by the mainstream media and politicians. It's not that other countries are stealing jobs from you guys, he said. It's your strategy. Distribute the money and things in a proper way. What Ma was driving at is the legitimate critique that for years was co-signed to the radical fringe of American politics, particularly since the end of the Cold War and the rise of the neoliberals, which today includes the establishment of both major parties. Ma didn't mince words in somewhat broken English. In the past 30 years, America has had 30 wars, spending a total of 14.2 trillion. What if they spent part of that money building up the infrastructure and helping the white collars and the blue collars? What he meant, of course, was the working people of America who have watched in many cases as their communities have been hollowed out from top to bottom. Make America Great Again is was a simplistic slogan, but it resonated with the millions of Americans who remember a time when the country had the fine roads and the most modern airports and hospitals and schools that were second to none, and who rightfully wondered what went wrong. Actually, the schools have never been second to none in the US. They don't do nothing but spend all those years lying to you. While globalization is a favorite target of some here in the US, Ma noted that globalization wasn't really the problem for America. As he said, American companies have made billions in profits from globalization, far more, in fact, than Chinese companies have made. But where did the money go? He asks. You're supposed to spend your money on your people. Well, we know that doesn't happen in America. You see how money disappears into people's pockets even when disasters happen. They never reach the people that need the help. That's part of the social contract in many countries today, and it used to be the same here in the US. As the late Senator Paul Wellstone liked to say, we all do better when we do better. Um, it spoke to the notion that a shared prosperity could lift everyone higher. But the neoliberal establishment that arose under Reagan prospered under Clinton and reached full and rancid bloom under George W. Bush had no interest in either a shared prosperity or in allegiance to America or its people. As the jaw dropping profits from globalization filled the pockets of the 1% to overflowing, they translated their windfall not into jobs or higher wages for average Americans, but into growing political power to further tilt the playing field in their favor. Tax cuts for job creators became the new political mantra, even as we all knew the money was headed mostly to the Wall Street casinos or offshore banks. Meanwhile, the lost tax revenue meant that the potholes in our streets never got filled, new teachers never got hired, and millions of Americans would have to get by access without, I'm sorry, millions of Americans would have to get by without access to health care, save for an emergency room. Our political class and business elite have been all too happy to find scapegoats to keep the rabble confused and divided. Blame the Mexicans, the Chinese, or immigrants for taking away jobs of hardworking Americans. Keep them afraid and isolated with warnings of terrorists, drug addicts, and crimes. But as Jack Ma reminded America's economic masters at Davos, we have met the enemy, and he is us, or at least those we elect to represent us. Americans, for the most part, recognize the betrayal, which is why the best way to win elections these days is to promise the fundamental change. Americans are ready for it. Even our political class continues to resist. It's time to start imagining a different America, not one that lies in the past, but the truly great and inclusive one that lies in the future down the road, and we've not taken into far long. America is not about inclusive. Anybody should know that by now. America is about inclusive in words, but it does not and never have practice inclusive, um, any type of inclusiveness. America has the plantation mentality, okay? This is why You can walk in any company in America, your hourly workers down at the bottom are mostly a mixture of people and blacks. And everybody at the top, directors, VPs, president, are all white. They have the plantation mentality here in America. And you see this everywhere. You any big positions are always go to the whites, and everybody else get the smaller nickel and dime or a salaried position that really is not paying that much. Okay? The plantation mentality has been here since the inception of America and slavery, and you can still see it now. You can even see it in sports and entertainment. You see it on your average everyday job. This is what America practice. They still have the plantation very much in place. It is just done in a different way where you may not recognize it all the way on the surface. But no matter where I go, places of business, even walking in your average store, I promise you, when you walk in there, management is going to be all white, and all of your workers working the floors and the cash registers are going to be your minorities and probably your poor whites and Latinos. That's your lower position, but they make sure the highest and the biggest paying positions, even in 2017, go to white people. And I have seen people at the top fumbling around on these jobs, and you can clearly tell they don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know what they're saying. They're just hiring these people, and they don't have the qualifications that you think, ladies and gentlemen. They just simply don't. As long as the person is white and they're over everybody else, that's just the way they like it. That's America, and that's always been America. And that's the problem. You know, when do you concede that your system is just not working and the way that you're doing it is not working? Okay. And as you can see just from Charlottesville, America don't like change. If they could keep the plantation going forever, they will. Okay, what you hear in the background, ladies and gentlemen, is my air conditioner, and it's kind of muggy here in New Jersey. I really can't turn it off. So I am sorry about the noise. Um, all right, let's get back into the article. I'll stop rambling now. If we had the money to spend to send young people to public universities or trade schools for free, and we all reap the rewards from investing in the next generation. What if getting sick didn't mean the threat of bankruptcy for individuals or families because we all had affordable access to health care? What if we had money to invest in the transition to clean and renewable resources of energy? We'd create millions of jobs, clear our skies, and fight climate change at the same time. Our political class tell us these are pipe dreams. They say we can't afford such luxuries, even though they are a standard issue for residents of many other Western nations with far less wealth than the U.S. No, the U.S. can afford to do this. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. And it's out of pure greed of the people at the top. Okay. In the end, it just comes down to priorities. For the past half century, America has spent its money on empire. And as every empire throughout history eventually learned, it's the road to ruin. It's time to begin the journey down a different road. But we're not going to go down a different road, okay? The greedy, no matter what happens, the greedy will remain greedy. The oppressors will remain in their oppression and subjugating and racism, anything to hold you back from reaching the top. But they will tell you this is a melting pot and we're all the same. And we all know that is far from the truth. We can look out in American society and see all of the imbalances that have been put in place on purpose. We have a dying population that is desperate to keep themselves at the top at all cost, even if it means the falling of the infrastructure and the country. It doesn't matter to them. Okay? If you're dying out, there's no way you're going to be able to keep all of the top positions in America like you are now. You only produce 5,000 people in 1 year, where all of the other groups produced millions of babies and new life to replace the life that died out. You're not doing that. And as far as you passing money down, how are you going to pass money down to a generation that's being wiped out from drugs? Your generation, your young generation is literally being wiped out. You're being wiped out. Your baby boomers are now your elderly and they're dying. You have nowhere to run right now. And the bottom line is, just looking at Charlottesville and the way you're out in the streets talking about you can't be replaced and you won't be replaced, you're dying out. It's inevitable. You will be replaced. You can't die out and maintain your grip on a country. It's just not realistic. But I know you're far from reality and you'll just blow this off. But the bottom line is, I see your junkies out here. I see the news stories. I see them robbing places and still landing in jail in spite of this fact that you keep saying this is a public health issue. They're still going to jail. They're committing crime. See, that's one thing about a junkie. A junkie is going to run out of money and get desperate. And when they get desperate, they're going to steal. They're going to rob banks. They're going to break into houses. They're going to rob places of business. They're going to even kill. They're out here killing on the roads every day. Just look up drug driving. They're killing on the roads all across this country every day. And it's not being stopped because you're calling it a public health issue. They have no incentive to stop their drug addiction. What reason are you really giving them? None. America right now don't have much of a future as long as we keep continuing down the path that we're on. The dying class is ruling everything. What do you really have to offer at this point in time? And the world sees what's going on. This is why nobody is listening to America like they used to. Before, the world would pay attention and hang on to every word America would say. Not anymore. That respect is being lost. They're being viewed as hypocrites and liars. How do you lead the world when you got such a mess going on in your own nation? America is very divided. It has never been united, by the way, but this is probably the worst I've ever seen it. It's a lot of divisions, divisions within groups, and it's not going to get better. And the whole world now see where you are weak. America's always been weak on social issues. You know, this is why you still see things out here like Charlottesville and Boston, and soon there's going to be a protest up in New York. America has never done well socially. Never. Militarily, yes, you know, with the nukes and everything. But socially, America gets a big, big F. Never did well socially. You know, you can keep talking about you're not racist and we we get along. No, we don't. America, we don't get along. We don't. That's fantasy talk. That's fantasy talk. You know, just last night I watched a cop brutalize another black man. We're not united, ladies and gentlemen. We're not. If anything jumped off in this world, America's not prepared for it because of all of the divisions from within. Please tell me what you think about this article. Please leave your comments and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. And ladies and gentlemen, those of you that have donated, I just want to take the time to thank you. I am looking to build up my patrons, so if any of you would like to become a patron, believe me, it would be deeply appreciated. Peace, family.